Hey guys, just a quick video here. I noticed the other day a bit of a coolant leak on my Citroen C4 yeah, sort of had the feeling it was coming from the heater core, and that seems to be the case. So in this video I'm just going to try a few different things to see if we can stop the leak. So maybe quickly, just to take this panel out, there's actually two screws. There's one that you can see, which is this one here. It's really easy to access, and there's this guy here, which is tucked away underneath here. You can get away without removing this center console section. I managed just to get the angle in there. Just enough to be able to get onto it, to unscrew it, to get it out. So yeah, you start with that one, but if you find it's not coming out, well, that's why. There's a screw hidden behind here, so watch out for that one. I'm guessing that's probably the same for the Picassos as well. So looking closely, it's a bit hard to see there on the camera, but the leak is definitely appears to be at the connection there. One sec. Okay, so looking a little bit closer, the leak is definitely up here at the connection. It seems to be dripping down here into this area, and then onto the panel, and then across and then down. So you can sort of see there where it's been dripping away. Now, it's actually really nicely designed. It would be very easy to swap this out. Looks like you've just got to disconnect the pipe. Of course, you've got to drain the system to get a new one in there, but rather not replace it. It seems like I'm guessing the core itself is probably all right, and it's just that connection. So I did read somewhere on the forum that you might get away just by tightening up that bolt there, because it's just must be some sort of O-ring or some sort of gasket that's just losing its seal. And this seems to be on the intake side. So I mean, it could also be that the heater core is a little bit clogged. It's increasing pressure at that point, but yeah, that might be something worthwhile trying to do a bit of a flush. But at this point, I think the first step will be just to tighten up that screw there, and we'll give it a couple of days and we'll see what happens, whether it's still leaking. So it's a Torx type screw, so can get into there. Just see if it will tighten up, see how loose it is. Okay, so I could get a bit of maybe an 1/8 of a turn. Okay, might just tidy it up, clean it up, see what happens. Maybe that's a free fix that will keep me going for a while. Okay, so it's a few days later. The car hasn't been driven. Yeah, but you can see it's still leaking out of that seal even after I've tried to tighten that bolt up. So I've drained the system. At least most of the fluid is out, and I suppose the important part is the top half of the engine where this sort of joins up with the thermostat housing. And so I'm just going to undo this bolt and drain the fluid. There shouldn't be too much left in those pipes, and then see what we're dealing with. It looks like the heater core is not actually screwed in or anything. It's just these little tabs, and then once they come back, should slide out. So let's have a look. So I just got some old rags there, bit of a sponge. The plan is to hopefully scoop everything up with this container. It's got a bit of a hole in it, so hopefully I can get under there and try to catch the fluid. Okay, so that's out now. There's another screw that holds this pipe in place somewhere up here, right up, tucked away up in there. There you go. Yeah, so there's another screw on. There's a screw holding the pipe right up the top here, getting towards the firewall. It's a bit tricky to get to, but I reckon we'll need to loosen that one up. So that screw at the top is now undone, and it's enough to get a little bit of movement in the core. You can see it's starting to drip, so I'm going to start to capture that. Hopefully I can just ease it a little bit further out. Try to not have all the fluid fly out at once. I think it's probably necessary to remove the glove box, so just having trouble getting access. So there's the screws across the top here. There's one on the side there behind the side panel which pops off pretty easily, and just two underneath. And then the whole thing should just, in theory, pop out. And then there's a connector for one of the lights, so disconnect that and we should be good to go. Oh, so I probably should have done that earlier, make my life a bit easier. But there you go, so that's it. Okay, now I didn't manage to capture that on video, but I was able to disconnect the hose. Sort of had to jimmy a bit of a screwdriver in between the two, and then it just sort of popped. It sort of gave way, and I was able to slide out the heater core completely. Perhaps don't need to remove the whole heater core to do this, but it's a good opportunity to get in there and clean out any dust. Have a bit of an inspection of what you can see of the evaporator, just see in case there's any leaks or anything there. Looks fine. Yeah, I'll get the vacuum cleaner in there and give it a bit of a wipe. Don't know how a spider made its way in there, but it would have been a interesting place to live. But it's bone dry in there, so we can conclude that the core's okay. It's really just leaking at that point. Here's the core itself. They're the two O-rings, or they're not really O-rings, they're sort of, or maybe once upon a time they were, but you can see they're sort of tapered. They're in pretty reasonable condition, really. So what I'm going to try is I'm just going to remount those onto the hose, onto the plastic hose, and use some gasket maker or sealer. And just to bridge the gap, there must be just some microscopic little imperfections in the O-ring where it's not compressing anymore. If I use some silicone gasket maker, I think that'll do the trick. So I'm just going to clean up all the surfaces. We'll get in here and give this a really good clean, and also on the end of the hose, and get some of the silicone on there and reassemble it, and hopefully that saves me from having to buy a new pipe. So I think you can't, from what I understand, you can't buy these O-rings. on their own, and I compare them against some standard O-rings I've got. Look, you might be able to get away with something, but I think I prefer to reuse them. But you can't buy them. You've got to buy the entire pipe assembly with the O-rings on it. So yeah, we'll give it a crack. See what happens. But that's the closest sort of O-ring that I've got in my collection that kind of matches. It's a pretty good fit. It's actually a really good fit. Yeah, I'm wondering now if it's worthwhile just to go with that. There's pretty much, there's a slight edge on that which will compress, but not on that one. I'm not sure what to do now. I've just got a fine layer of gasket maker on there. A bit hard to see. I've also put a little bit in the heater core as well. Might give it a bit of a touch up, a bit of a tidy up, and then I'll slide the heater core back in and reassemble it. And let it cure. I think it takes 24 hours. And hopefully that's all we need. Okay, so it's a day later. Been for a few drives. Obviously there's coolant in the system. It's all the air's been bled out. There's a couple of bleeder screws, bleeder valves I should say, in the system. One near the firewall and one near the thermostat housing. Just little caps. If you take them off, you'll get all the air out of the system. So the heater core's working fine, nice and warm, and you can see there's absolutely no leaks there anymore. So I think that is going to be a pretty permanent fix, and yeah, it hasn't really cost me anything. So that's it. Okay, hopefully there was something in there that might be of use to you if you're encountering the same problem, and yeah, we'll catch you next time.